and welcome to Wean Off the Palate. I am your Ween. This week we're discussing Bridgerton, Season 1, Episode 4, An Affair of Honor. As usual, the episode starts with yet another ball, and everyone is obsessing over Daphne, because this ball is at the palace, because her relationship with Prince Little German Boy, Prince Nephew. I'm sorry. Her relationship with Prince Nephew is progressing to the point where she's been invited to the palace, which is exciting news, obviously. Although Lady Bridgerton is a bit nervous about being there. And Daphne is still a bit sad because really she's in love with the Duke of Hotness, of course, for reasons, despite the fact that he's kind of a D-bag, honestly. But we'll get into that more later. In this episode, the Queen and Prince Nephew arrive, and the prince gives Daphne a fancy necklace, but as he's putting it on for her, she gets kind of horny for Duke Hotness instead, and she seems like she's about to pass out, and the prince is like, "Oh, Miss Daphne, are you all right? Are you perhaps sexually insane?" And she's like, "No, of course I'm not sexually insane." And it causes her to ponder whether this is what she really wants for her life, since, of course, everyone's excited by the prospect of her marrying a prince, but she's just not horny for him. Her little sister, Daphne's little sister, I think the youngest girl, and I don't remember what her name is, and her name must start with G because Hyacinth is a little boy who was born right after their dad died. And then there's Eloise and Daphne, and then Francesca, the one that we haven't seen yet because she's somewhere else. So this must be the G sister, yeah. We'll call her Gargle. Gargle is really excited about the prospect of her big sister marrying a handsome prince, although she hasn't seen his whack-ass sideburns. But Daphne is stressed out about it because, as always, she has to choose between making a rational choice and a horny choice. And since this is Bridgerton, we kind of know what she's going to choose, which is fine, I guess, if that's the reason you watch TV. Meanwhile, Duke Hot is angrily punching while his buddy, who is a professional boxer, is razzing him about, "Oh, you're probably pretending that punching bag has a German accent, aren't you?" And Duke Hot is like, "I'm leaving England because of reasons that don't have to do with this lady that everyone thought I was going to marry, but then she's marrying this German guy instead. It's just for my own reasons that are mine, and it has nothing to do with my feelings. I'm very angry, though, BTW." In the Featherington house, Marina is being shown off to a really crusty old nobleman, and we're supposed to be disgusted and horrified because he treats her like a horse, and he's old, and he's not attractive, and he's bald on top, and he looks like a guy who would sell books at a science fiction convention, who are often very nice people, BTW. And then as soon as he leaves with interest in Marina, Marina's like, oh my god, no way, I can't possibly marry him. And Lady Featherington reminds her that this is like low-key a bit urgent, since she has to get married before she, starts showing signs of pregnancy, and it has to be to someone who's not going to mind when she has a baby only 6 months after the first time they engaged in sexual congress. And then, surprise, surprise, after Marina storms out, a young fellow enters, and instead of being there to see Marina, he's there to see Penis. Yes, Penis has a suitor. And he's kind of a dorky guy, but that's fine. And Penis, of course, is very excited. While that's happening, Penelope, probably grateful that her family's distracted, is out hanging out with Eloise, listening to Eloise's #feminism talking points. I hope that I'm not as annoying to my friends. Eloise and Penelope talk a bit about Daphne's engagement, and Eloise is feeling a bit pressed about the fact that, once Daphne gets married, it's going to be her turn, right? Because of how the alphabet works. And so, she's in big danger. We're going to see how the watercolor brush treats the human figure in my artistic presentations today. Yeah, so Eloise is worried that, once Daphne's married, she's going to have to get married. She doesn't want to get married. She wants to go to school and be smart. We've heard it all before. And she thinks maybe she can escape this doomed fate of having to be married if she could just meet Lady Whistledown, understand how does Lady Whistledown do it. Which is like, okay, whatever, that's a fine plot for a side character caper. Daphne and Anthony go to the boxing match that Duke Hot Friend is going to be in, because Prince Nephew is going to be there. And Prince Nephew is excited that she's there, and he's amazed that she, as a woman, can handle the violence of bare-knuckle, old-timey boxing. But it turns out Ducat didn't leave the country after all because his friend was like, hey man, I really need your support at this boxing match. So instead, he stayed around to help promote his friend, and so now he's there, and Daphne is feeling horny about him. And it's making it hard for her to remember that she's supposed to be romancing the prince. But she's trying her best. The prince is being pretty okay. Like, he's talking about how important family is to him, about how he wants, good God, to stay in England. He doesn't necessarily want to move back to Prussia. I don't know how that's supposed to work as a prince. Maybe he's not the main son. Oh, this guy needs to be on the top layer. Yeah, there we go. Top layer. Yeah, he wants to stay in England. He's happy to remain close to Daphne's family because family is so important to him, and he knows how important it is to her too. We're gonna clean this up later. We're gonna clean this up later. Oh yeah, this is there's this phenomenal perspective, and it makes a great deal of sense. And so that's nice. Like, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to marry Prince Nephew, but Ducat sees that she's talking to Prince Nephew and laughing at his jokes, and so he gets penis jealous, and his friend wins the boxing match, and so he's feeling a little bit manly and horrible. Penelope's dad, Lord Featherington, Penelope and Penis's dad, and Priscilla's dad, I should say. He, however, bet all the money on Ducat's friend's opponent, and so he is in a bad way financially. And so at the gentleman's club afterwards, he is placating all of his guys who have lent him money and being like, oh, I'm going to pay you back. Don't worry about it. But they should worry about it. Binkerton is there, and Binkerton talks to an artist that he had met in a previous episode and accidentally offended, but then they kind of made up, and he's like, oh, I wish I could see some of your art that was a little bit more fun and experimental than the stuff you display publicly. And his artist friend is like, oh, dude, why don't you come to my house? You can hang out. I have a bit of a salon going on. I mean, okay, is Binkerton the gay brother or not? Like, let's be real here, guys. But, I don't know, maybe he's just an artist. Is that a thing? Are there people who are just artists? Oh, they're going to put me up before the cancellation boards one of these days, and I'm going to deserve it. Oh, yeah, and then Ducat and Anthony rendezvous, and Anthony's like, hey, sorry, I was so mad at you for dating Daphne. I see now that you weren't trying to molest her. You really just were like her friend, and it really helped her get more dudes interested in her again. So all good. We're buddies now. And Ducat's like, yeah, sure, I guess. We're all buddies again, but I'm leaving England anyway, so it doesn't matter. And Anthony's like, okay. And then Prince Nephew comes up and he says, Anthony, would you be interested in discussing some topics with me? And we all know the topic is, I would like to marry your sister, perhaps. So obviously Anthony's interested in that topic, since that's his primary concern right now. These aren't aliens. Don't worry, they're not aliens. They're definitely not aliens. It's fine. Meanwhile, Lady Bridgerton is a bit frustrated because she's like, Daphne, it's a bit inappropriate for a lady to be going to like a boxing match, you know, very violent, a bit sketchy. Is it couth? But Daphne's like, don't worry, it was to visit with the prince. But Daphne's mom, Lady Bridgerton, isn't actually 100% sold on the prince. She's still carrying a torch, I think, for the Duke of Hotness, which is weird, since the Duke of Hotness is a raging D-bag. He is hotter than Prince Nephew, though, so, I mean, I guess if she's making judgments on that kind of scale. Later we find out that her goal is to get Daphne married to someone who truly loves her, which is like, holy shit, Mom, what is your rating system? How are you determining that? Because I am not sold. I'm not sold on this Duke Hotness guy, but we're not there yet at that part. Anthony arrives, and he's like, I was just talking to the Prince Nephew, and he said he totally wants to marry you, Daphne. So, I support you either way, which is nice of Anthony. It shows he really did learn his lesson from previous episodes about speaking for Daphne, and he's on his respect women juice. I don't think that's the right color. That's not the color I want. I think, even though I think he's wearing an all black outfit in the show, in this scene, I don't find that very compelling. I'm not perhaps an artist in some ways, but in other key ways, I am. Daphne is torn between accepting the prince's proposal and not, because on the one hand, yes, she's horny for the Duke of Hotness, but then on the other hand, this other guy wants to marry her. He's a perfectly nice guy. They seem to be, interested in all the same things and to have the same priorities in life. And some people, scholars, might say that those are better reasons to get married than being horny. And it tends to work out better if you share your priorities in life than just getting married because you're horny or because it's convenient. But then, what do those scholars know? Okay, here's Anthony's sideburns. They're really like that, too. I'm not jesting when I draw them this way. That, at least, I can't fault them. That is period accurate. People did have crazy, delirious sideburns at that time. Okay, and this is Bridgerton. This is the first time we're depicting Bridgerton in the show. But he's standing a bit far away, so he's not really going to be getting a lot of detail. Some have said he resembles a little X-Files alien at this distance. But those people are wrong. He resembles Bridgerton, obviously. I haven't made any decision. Actually, no, I have a plan for their facial features. I don't need to worry about it. This is the Duke's friend, and he was wearing a white cravat in this scene. They were probably all wearing black because it's a very serious scene, but I want to have high contrast fun colors in my images, so. He also doesn't resemble an X-Files alien BTW. He resembles a Regency man wearing an outfit that would be fit for a duel, but no spoilers. Daphne is torn about the engagement. Her mom talks to her later as they're getting ready for yet another ball, and as they're getting ready for the ball, they are discussing, why did you have that sudden break up with the Duke? What's going on really between you guys? I'm your mother. I have a right to know what's going on in your mind, which is exactly what a mother would say. Daphne is upset. She's still, of course, sad about breaking up with the Duke of Hotness. And so she finally admits to her mother, Mom, it was all a ruse. We weren't really ever planning to get married. It was a scheme. It was a scam. It was a shtick. It wasn't real. But of course, she's weeping heavily as this is happening, so her mom knows that on some level she did have romantic feelings for the Duke of Hotness. He was wearing a really cool, gold and purple paisley waistcoat in this scene, but I am not going to attempt to draw paisley, so you're just going to have to live with that. Thus, the Bridgertons go to the ball with the final words between Daphne and her mom being her mom's lamentations that she didn't just want Daphne to find a suitable husband, but to find true love, which is bullshit. That's bullshit. That's not what this system was for. The fact that she has an opportunity to marry a guy who shares some of her priorities in life and is in a quite financially and socially stable position is the best possible outcome that this system could actually have. This is as good as it fucking gets for this kind of weird Regency arranged marriage. And if Daphne were a sane person who actually believed in any of the societal ideals that she occasionally espouses, she would jump on this prince opportunity and get married to him ASAP. But I digress. Meanwhile, Ducat is getting ready to leave town forever, but Lady Danbury is dropping zingers on him for the fact that he's running away, for the fact that he's not going to marry Daphne, even though she's such a lovely girl. And she exhorts him to pursue Daphne despite everything, which is whatever. And then she reveals something that I'm just really upset about, which is that racism is real. Racism is real in the Bridgerton universe, and it's not It's not that they didn't have racism. It's not that it's race blind casting. It's that the King George, fell in love with a black British woman, the Queen Charlotte, the queen in the show, and because he decided to marry her, everyone had to stop being racist, and black people were allowed to become nobles. This revelation is troubling me profoundly. I'm profoundly troubled by it. And Lady Danbury's like, and that's why love is so important, because it was the key to defeating racism and giving us all the opportunities we have now. And that's why you must embrace love in this life. I think I'm going to need to add a little bit darker color, a different brush, to make it so that the Duke of Hotness's pants are not completely see-through. Yeah, that's still a see-through brush, though. Like, I'm definitely glad that they fixed racism in the... Wait a minute. Is this behind his body? Is that what the problem is? No. Oh, my God. Oh, my... His pants were behind his body this whole time. Well, all right. Now I'm feeling like a bit of a silly Billy. I'm feeling like a bit of a silly Billy, Your Honor. I put the Duke's hair and body and pants behind him instead of in front of him. So, yeah, okay, the revelation that racism is real. Yes, racism obviously is quite real here in real life. I was kind of hoping that it would not be real in the Bridgerton universe, because I just don't know that we have the rhetorical tools to deal with it in a tasteful manner in this show, because of, maybe I refer to this too often, the part back at the beginning where we didn't have the rhetorical tools to deal thoughtfully with sexual assault and coercion, and so we had the goofy attempted rape scene. I know, I'm always harping on this goofy attempted rape scene. It's just something that some of us take quite seriously. I shouldn't say more on that. I just... All I'll say is that the Duke of Hotness wisely says, Lady Danbury, love has definitely not fixed racism. And that's why I'm not really making love like my priority in life, among other reasons. For example, of course, his evil dad. And I have to give the Duke of Hotness some credit here, because love has not fixed racism. I don't think it's fixed racism in the Bridgerton universe. I think there's definitely, if racism exists, if we have to deal with this knowledge now that racism exists, I'm not feeling confident that love has fixed it. Yeah, okay, then this just left me reeling, team. This just left me reeling, and it was hard to absorb everything else that came after. So then the ball. The ball is a racy ball, apparently, because it's being done by a widow who, you know, is feeling very liberated by the death of her presumably horrible and obnoxious husband. Yeah, I'm doing some inking here. Don't worry about it. Definitely. It's gonna be to good ends. Anthony doesn't already look a bit like Hank Hill. So at the ball, Marina is forced to dance with her kind of crusty old suitor, and she's not enjoying it, understandably. Penis is having a nice time dancing with her new boyfriend that she just got. The girl who was previously cultivating a relationship with Prince Nephew confronts Daphne about, why did you have to steal this guy from me? It was going really well for me with him, and then you just came out of nowhere when you already had the Duke of Hotness. And Daphne's like, I didn't steal him from you. I just hit on him and made him like me more than you when I heard you specifically saying you were afraid that I could steal him from you. And oddly, the prince's former suitress doesn't find this compelling. Back at the Duke of Hotness's house, he finds his mom's favorite painting from the previous episode. And we have a quick flashback to remind us that Daphne liked it, even though, let's all be clear, this is a streaming show, and that was last episode of this streaming show. A bingeable show, as they say. But just JIC, we have a flashback to last episode, so that we all remember that Daphne liked the painting, and she had a very compelling explanation of what she liked about it. That reminded the Duke of his mom, who he never got to know, which is sad. And so it made him like Daphne more, and they had a romantic moment about it. That fills him with emotions. Manly emotions, though, don't worry. Definitely manly emotions. Bridgerton, meanwhile, is not at the ball, wisely. He's busy doing his own thing, as he should. He's going to the studio of his new artist buddy. And when he's there, he finds, it's full of nude models and political radicals saying things like, aren't the nobility stupid? They spend all this time talking about Lady Whistledown's bullshit and not dealing with problems like the Napoleonic War. And let me tell you, I felt a little bit wig-balled about that, but okay. All right, called out. I'm always worrying about the Napoleonic War, and I'm never worrying about what Lady Whistledown is saying. They've got me there. Do you think this is a flintlock pistol? It is now. Oh, I think this is growing great. I think this is going sexcellent. Where's Bridgerton's body? Probably somewhere down here. He's going to be worried about Anthony. Yeah, he's Chibi Bridgerton. Don't worry about it. Yes, I think that's sufficient facial detail. I like that Anthony's weird bulge is right in his face. That wasn't intentional, but it just goes to show you the power of composition. Actually, he's looking a little bit more like Colin, who was also in this scene, so we can say it's either Bridgerton or Colin. It really doesn't matter. They're all Bridgerton brothers, obs. Also, he's looking like a little Puritan boy. At the salon, Bridgerton tries to get the confidence to draw nude models, and he tries marijuana for the first time. No, he doesn't. He just bums the smoke off one of the artists, but I'm pretty sure he's trying marijuana for the first time. In my mind, that's what's happening to him. Eloise. Oh, no. Right. Back at the ball. Wouldn't you know it? They decided to have opera as the entertainment there. And so the opera singer who Anthony broke up with is also there. And she makes eye contact with Anthony. He's sad about it. And his mom notices. And she brings a girl for him to try and have a relationship with, and he kind of ignores her, understandably, because he doesn't really want to marry just this random lady that his mom wants to, which, to be fair, would any of us want to marry some random lady that our mom wanted us to? I don't think so. This is the Duke of Hotness' second in the duel. But again, we're not there yet. Yes, his arms are significantly two different sizes. I could probably fix the way that there's far too much neck. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Oh, and then Penis's dad tells her new boyfriend uncomplimentary things about her so that he breaks off the engagement. They're not even engaged. He breaks off their flirtation all of a sudden because he thinks that she's, dishonest or unmarriageable or something. Things are happening at the front of his face that are not okay. Upon reflection, I think I might need to make some adjustments. I think I gave him too much hair. Despite everything, I am going to call him the Duke of Hotness. Right, Eloise was searching for Lady Whistledown. And she thinks maybe one of the servants is Lady Whistledown. And so she goes and searches all the maid's stuff and the main housekeeper's stuff, who collects issues of Lady Whistledown's broadsheet. And the housekeeper catches her and is understandably really annoyed that she's, searching her private possessions. And then she thinks it's utterly laughable that Eloise thinks a servant could be writing the Lady Whistledown dispatches when the servants have actual work to do. And also, if you were making all the money from the broadsheets that Lady Whistledown is, why would you stay a servant? Why wouldn't you go do something else? And she makes fun of Eloise for her lack of understanding of how hard it is to be a servant. And I'm like, why are these the people the show is about? They're literally, every day for the Bridgertons is Out of Touch Thursday. Is that also part of the fantasy element? Do we all wish we could live in Out of Touch Thursday? Is that the wealth and power we're dreaming of? The power to always be out of touch, out of time? The question is, what are we going to do with the edges of the picture? Okay, I've got ideas. I've got ideas that are going to give it, the intensity it deserves. But we're still not at that part because I keep forgetting to actually talk about what's happening. Back at the ball again. Penelope and Colin are hanging out, but I'm starting to conceive of... Yeah, okay. I'm starting to conceive of what we're going to have going on here. Penelope and Colin hang out. He's still into Marina. The prince is trying, and he's failing to put the moves on Daphne and to make his proposal to her. But she keeps seeing the Duke of Hotness, who has shown up to the ball after all. So she runs off, pretending to also be a bit hysterical, and goes to hide in the garden to try and collect herself because she's kind of having a panic attack about whether she should marry the Duke or whether she should marry the prince or not marry him so that she can marry the Duke, and what's going to happen. And then the Duke finds her there. They argue. He tries to apologize for breaking up with her for masturbating last episode after he told her she should masturbate. She's still mad at him. She tells him she is going to marry the prince because the prince is a nice guy who has the same priorities as she does, and wants the same things out of life, like a family, and that's a great reason to marry someone. You're right, especially at this time, Daphne. If you want the same things out of life and he can support your dreams, then why wouldn't you marry him? Some of us might ask. That's on us for not understanding what's really going on here. Oh, that's an interesting brush. The Duke smolders at her, and then she goes running off into the hedge maze, and the Duke gives chase, and then when he catches her, they kiss uncontrollably, and they start making out, and he is very much outraging her. And then Anthony catches them, and he's obviously deeply upset. He throws the Duke of Hotness to the ground and yells at him and challenges him to a duel, either a duel or he has to marry Daphne, and he refuses outright to marry Daphne, which Daphne's very hurt by. She's like, seriously? You would rather die in a duel than marry me? Do you really hate me that much? You're kind of a dick in that regard. And the Duke refuses to give any explanation of that. Luckily, Lady Bridgerton is quite drunk, so she doesn't notice when Daphne and Anthony hurriedly leave the ball. And Bridgerton is still at the salon, and he's the last guy there finishing his art piece. And his new artist friend is like, you can feel free to be yourself here, which is like, if that's not a sign he's the gay cousin, like what is, honestly? And so Bridgerton goes home without confronting what kind of himself he wants to be other than an artist, which is fine. Some of us are only really capable of confronting that. Being ourselves means being artists, and everything beyond that is like a little bit much. Lady Featherington is investigating why her husband just tanked this boyfriend that Penis got, and she starts looking into her husband's finances. And Marina is really excited about marrying Colin, and she's telling Penelope all about it. And of course, Penelope is heartbroken because she's in love with Colin, but instead of saying something about it, she's just like, oh, I don't feel well. And Marina's like, okie dokes. Then Eloise shows up to talk to Penelope and is like, I have a new theory about who Lady Whistledown is. And Penelope's like, I could not give a shit. I'm actually really upset. And so she and Eloise have a big fight about it. Back at the Bridgertons' place, Anthony's repentant that he ever allowed Daphne to spend any time with Duke Hotness at all. And she's like, you don't get to say. You're always telling me what to do. Now, suddenly, for some reason, Daphne doesn't care about her reputation or getting married. She's just worried about the Duke dying, even though this whole time we've been doing this stuff because it's so important to her to get married. But for some reason, suddenly now only Anthony cares about that, and she doesn't care. And I guess you could say it's because she's in love with the Duke, I guess. But mostly it's just like Anthony is the only person who's acting like this is real and the stakes are real. And so, I don't know, fine. Anthony's not even the most annoying character anymore, but he still annoys me. And then Cullen and Binkerton show up, and Anthony pulls them in because Binkerton's going to have to be his second at the duel, and when Anthony either dies or is disgraced from killing Duke Hotness, he's going to have to flee the country, so Binkerton is going to have to be in charge, and Binkerton's sad about that because his new artist buddy was like, hey, that's one of the benefits of being a second son is you can screw around and be an artist or do whatever that you want to do. Now, if Binkerton has to take over Anthony's job, he's not going to be allowed to screw around after all, so he's disappointed. Duke Hotness is getting drunk because if they're going to duel in the morning and he's going to die, like, what else does he care about? And his boxer friend finds him and is like, what the hell, you're supposed to be gone? And Duke Hot says, I'm going to be in a duel, and his boxer friend is like, well, I guess I'll have to be your second. And Ducat is like, no, you have a family, you have a future. And his friend is like, well, you've tanked that now because I am your friend and I have to support you. And so that's just another reason Ducat is getting less and less likable as a guy. He's really spending all the currency that he got from having a tragic backstory on being an enormous D-bag and putting his poor friend, who is just trying to succeed in life in his already dangerous career of bare-knuckle, old-timey boxing, further at risk with the possibility of being shot in a duel by Anthony, of all people. Anthony, realizing either his life is about to end or he's going to be disgraced, goes to see the opera singer, and when she tries to reject him, he explains that maybe he'll be thrown out of polite society and they can finally be together. And she's so excited by this that she begins having sex with him right in the open doorway. That's not even a joke. And Lady Featherington confronts her husband about his disgraced finances. He has a whole breakdown weeping, and so Lady Featherington is like, I guess I'm going to have to fix this. The dawn impends. Anthony departs, the opera singer, for the duel. Daphne forces Colin to reveal the meeting place for the duel because she realizes the prince's former girlfriend, love interest, saw her and the Duke making out in the hedge maze, and so her reputation, Daphne's reputation, can be destroyed either way, so she really does have to marry the Duke, and it's not going to help them if he's killed in a duel. Anthony prepares to duel the Duke of Hotness out in a field. He gives Binkerton's instructions about how to be in charge of the family and to take care of the opera singer. But just as Colin and Daphne arrive, Duke Hotness and Anthony face down, and Anthony fires. Just as Daphne rides between them, her horse rears, she falls off the horse, everyone drops their weapons to rush forward to be like, oh my god, Anthony, did you kill Daphne? But alas, she's fine. He missed. She insists on speaking privately to Duke Hotness to tell him how she's really in serious, terrible danger now. Like, if he doesn't marry her, her life is ruined. Again, we don't really know what the actual consequences are, but okay, fine. And still he refuses to marry her and explains he doesn't want to have children / can't have children. And she really wants to be a mother, so their marriage is not going to work out. So he's pretty much just got to have this duel with Anthony. That's all that's left. But as he walks away, Daphne says, we're getting married. And she announces it to everybody. And I don't know why that's going to work, because that's where the episode ends, right? Is that she says this out loud to the whole group of people, her brothers and the Duke's friend and the doctor who's there. And so I guess we're supposed to think that because she said it to everybody, it's gonna happen. Like, everybody else hearing it means the Duke's gonna have to go along with it. But like, why would he have to go along with it? Why would he have to do it? Why does he have to do it just now that she said it out loud? I don't know, but I do know that he has to do it because I think the second half of the show is going to be about them and they're married. And so that's going to be its whole own trial. So this scene, my art piece here, this is right before Colin and Daphne arrive when the Duke of Hotness and Anthony are having their face off, you know, because they do the thing where they stand back to back and they walk 30 paces or whatever, and then they turn around and fire, but neither of them also fires, even though I think you're supposed to turn around and fire at each other quickly. We were not viewing them in the actual scene through this, like, menstrual meatloaf vision, but I don't know, I felt like I needed a way to communicate the tension and the danger and also the level of gore that I was kind of hoping for when they would shoot each other. But sadly, no one was actually shot. Even though it would have been an exciting twist, like if Anthony had accidentally shot Daphne and like blown off her arm, and he had to live his life knowing his sister had now had a robot arm and was in disgrace. But then it could still be sexual too, because then the Duke of Hotness, maybe he becomes fascinated by her lack of an arm and the tragedy that they were both implicated in that caused her to lose their arm, and they have interesting sex. They could still get married, but they're not going to have interesting sex. They're going to have just regular sex with 8 limbs. And with that, I think it's time to wrap the episode. Thank you for your time. As always, I am your Ween. Godspeed.